What's up, Pirates? Ray Talks here with Awaken TCG, and today we have an amazing video. Yes, as you guys know, I just won Coretcg's online regional, 512 players. I went 9-0, and so I wanted to drop a video giving you guys a little more in-depth analysis on my list. As you guys know, I did an interview with Eggman, and I kind of briefly went over all of my options, what I was running, how I used it, stuff like that, and nothing too crazy. So I want to go just slightly more in depth, and then I'm going to go down and give you guys a breakdown of all the matchups. So for starters, let's go ahead and get started. All right, we have Queen. This card, it's an expensive card, but this card is really good, especially late game or if you're bricked. I run a 2 of. I like this card for the reason that, you know, if you don't have the best starting hand, you can just, you know, play one of these early on, and then you can, you know, cycle 2 cards and you get a draw 1 essentially, while cycling 2 cards out of your hand that you don't want. Great card, and especially if you're going first. If you go first, playing this doesn't feel bad because you're still going to hit your 10 cost Doflamingo curve that same turn, regardless if you don -1 or not. The only issue is playing this on curve and doing the effect at 7 Dawn, you won't be able to kid because you'll be at 6 Dawn if you use this too early. That's the only one thing to, you know, just keep note of. But yeah, this card is amazing. It not only is it a blocker, it gives you a +1 resource because you get a draw 2, trash 1. Tesoros is what I have up next. These cards are amazing in the yellow matchup, can be useful in Whitebeard, in the mirror. You know, a lot of things, you know, these decks don't have removal, and so if you stick this at the right time on the board, and then your 10 drop turns are like DOFFY, you draw 2, or like you know, just play a Luffy, play really defensive, and then you're drawing 2 on top of that. This card alone will swing games and win them for you. It is a brick, although it is searchable. I feel like 2 of is a perfect number just for the fact that, because if you really need one, you can search it, or if you don't have any other options, you can still pick this up off of a film search. But that is another one of the 5 drops I run. I know these ratios are definitely the biggest factors in decks. I have 1 Diamante. In the video I said I only run it because you know, I have 1 alt art. It isn't searchable, but it is a 1k counter, which I do like, and in some matchups it definitely does help to drop one, you know, a diamante and have, you know, consistent pressure. You're swinging 7 essentially because you're always, you know, using that 1 Dawn, swinging 7, and if you play this on curve and it sticks on board for 3-4 turns, you know, you're just getting an insane value out of this card. But I like 1 of. I feel like any more takes away from other cards that you definitely want in the deck, and so that is our 5 cost. We have 2 here, 1 Diamante. Next up, we have the 1 of Shiki. Definitely helps in the Whitebeard matchup. It is an insane card. Playing this on curve allows you to start swinging 7 on your turn 4 for 8 Dawn freely, because at that point this will always not be able to be KO'd. And if a Zoro wants to, you know, destroy this, this is out of the range of 3,000 worlds. It needs a red rock. This feels like a bad card to red rock. So this definitely has a lot of things going for it. It is a 7,000, is not 8,000, but at least it does have a 1k counter. Again, another card that is searchable by film. So even though it is a 1 of, it's searchable, which makes it not feel as bad, because if you need to find it, more often than not with this deck, you'll be able to find it. Next up, we have Sugar. We have 4 Sugars. We're rocking 4 Sugars for the reason that it's insane in the law matchup, super good against Zoro, and then of course late game, if a let's say a Whitebeard goes blocker, and you know, you have some of these in your hand, it's basically over. You know, you just boom, rest the blockers, swing for game. You could go 3 of. I feel like 3 of is also okay if there's other cards you would like to run. So don't feel bad taking one of these out. Next up, we have our Searchers and the start of our film package. You know, this is the probably the engine of the deck in terms of searching. This card right here, playing these on curve early on, getting, you know, a lot of draws off this, feels amazing. It's a Nami, no counter. It is a brick, but you're more often than not always playing these early on, and so it doesn't feel bad. Can be also played off of Luffy, and if you're going second, you're at 8 Dawn, you can play Luffy and Tsunami, still get a search off. One of our 2Ks here, we have Buena Festa. This will unbrick your hand if you start with one of these. Let's say you mulligan, and then you at least get one of these in your mulligan hand that you have to keep, and the rest of your hand is bricked. You can, you know, play one of these, search up Onami, and now you're in business, right? You can search again here. You're going to be taking life. You're going to be drawing. So you should be in a better state afterwards. So a lot of people have been saying that they don't really like to use these. I love using Buena Festas. I want to try to curve out perfectly. And if this is in my hand, 9 times out of 10, I'm playing it. Some more 2Ks. I used to not run any Shikis, but I do. I run 2 now and 3 choppers. So the reason being is because I used to have 4 choppers and 4 Buena Festas, and that's it. But now I upgraded. I took out 1 chopper, and then I added 2 Shiki. So now we are at 6, 7, 8, 9. We're at 9 2Ks. We used to be at 8. I just like having 1 extra 2K, and it's searchable, obviously. It feels really good. It doesn't feel bad using 2Ks early on to get that early game pressure going. So yeah, and obviously Don -1, you can play this off life. And so in a case where your opponent just clears your board completely and you don't have an extra swinger to go for lethal, and you pop this out of life, you win the game. Very, very rare circumstance, but it's definitely an option there. One of, we'll go with Union Armada. This card here, searchable by film, so I don't mind running a 1 of. It is an amazing card. It definitely came into play, I think, on 3 of my matches, even though it is a 1 of. But like I said, it's searchable, so if you're ever going to need a card like this, it's amazing. More often than not, you're going to have a Nami tapped, and your opponent's going to want to kill the Nami. Sometimes they have big bodies on board and they go for a small weenie unit, or even your Tesoro. You can swing early with your Tesoro even without being at 10 Dom. But if you have this in life, it doesn't matter. You play it, save it, can't be KO'd by battle. So this card definitely comes in handy, and it swings pressure into your direction tenfold. This card is amazing. It can't be used on your leader, so I do only run 1 of. Anything more than that is definitely a brick. Trigger, you ramp a Don, so it's basically like a pseudo Bagua if you get it in life, so still super amazing. Talking about Bagua, we run 2. We used to run 4, but the Don, adding them just for the trigger effect, it feels kind of bad. You have Pun Gibson and you have Spiderweb that just do the job way better. It gives you the 4K and it gives you an extra effect. And so that is why we only run 2 of. 2 Judgment of Hell. Running too much of these can be a detriment. I feel like, if you need that 4K and you're stuck with these, you only have 3K, it does feel kind of bad because you can't do 3K and 3K on the same target. But what I will say is this trigger here actually did help me in one of the Whitebeard matchups out of my 3 that I faced. It says if your opponent has 6 or more Dawn cards on the field, your opponent returns 1 Dawn from their field to their Dawn deck. There was a situation where one of the Whitebeards was swinging with his vanilla units. Or he swung with 1 vanilla unit. He swung at my leader with his leader, so for 2 swings. But I blocked the first, took the second, and on the second one, it was this. He had 6 Dawn up, and I know he had a Thatch in hand. I play this trigger. He went from 6 Dawn to 5 Dawn. Boom, completely changes his turn. Cannot Thatch anymore. So this off of life actually won me one of the games. Or I like to say won me, but it would have been close regardless if he played that or not. But I got this off trigger, and he had 6 Dawn up, went down to 5, could not play the Thatch. And then we have 3 Pun Gibson. People love running 4, but I only run 3. I already have 4 Utas in this deck, which have the same effect, if not better. It's just a 4K rest. More often than not, your opponent is going to play around a Pun Gibson. So there's no need to run 4 because, like I said, your opponent obviously knows what it does, and they're always going to try to play around it if they can. And so the actual uses you have for Pun Gibson are very limited compared to the amount of uses that you can get out of a Spiderweb, which is 4 of. Pretty amazing card. This event is so good in this deck. You have so many combos. It allows you to, use a blocker that's higher power than your leader. Block with that, restand right away. So this one event can block a 9K swing by just having a 6K blocker on board, and then boom, you block it for free. It stays alive. Now you're restood. You can block again, right? So much value here. Or if there's something on the board you need to protect, you go boom, save your life or your unit, whatever. Restand a unit you want to save. Your opponent can no longer swing at it. So this card here gives you an insane amount of value. Always 4 of in this deck, 100% hands down. Now let's go ahead and talk about some of the bread and butter of kind of what this deck runs. Let's go ahead and clear up some space here. Just move this over a bit. You guys can pause the video if you guys want to see the deck list. Maybe I'll make it on the dev builder and just link it down below. We run 4 Luffy. It's a staple. You got to run 4 Luffy. It plays all your good cards. I run 3 bins. This card here is an amazing tool against Whitebeard. Searchable, film, and it's a 1K. It's a 4-cost vanilla. You don't want to run the Zoros. I see. Okay, I'm going to clear this up right now. Everyone says run the Zoros. The bins are ugly. You have to run the bins because if you verse a Zoro and you need a swing at a buggy, this card needs to be able to kill it. If you're running Zoro, a Zoro cannot kill it. Obviously, you have your leader swing to kill a buggy, but if they have 2 buggies on board and this is what your board is looking like, you're going to need both swings. You know, you just got to suck it up and play the bins. Don't run Zoros. Get those out of your deck, please. Next up, we have 4 Uta. Probably the best film card in this deck. This gives you so much value against Law, Zoro, Katakuri. You know, if your opponent has multiple units that are cost 5 or below, and they can't all swing at once, you know, you're getting value here. Always getting value. This card, definitely a 4-of staple every time. An amazing card. And then obviously the superstar of the show. I got to get 4 of these altards, but here we have Doflamingo. This card here is it's a monster. It's up there with power levels with Big Mom. People like to say, oh, it's better than Big Mom, but I don't know. Big Mom, you know, minuses a resource for your opponent, gives you 1 resource, and then you have a 12k body on board. This is only a 10k. Obviously, it's still a 10 Don turn, but this is very situational. Your opponent might play around it and then it doesn't feel as good, whereas 10 Mom can always be played regardless of the situation. If you're in a position where you won't die, it's always playable, which is more often than not very likely compared to this, where your opponent could be a super skilled player and actually play around it, which makes it a little harder for you to actually play it. There are answers to this card, right? So, but that being said, this is probably the best card in terms of value if you get all 3 rested, because it wins you games. It literally wins you games. And then the only part about this that makes it even better is you can chain them together, right? You can play so many of them back to back if you have them, and then it just puts your opponent in unwinnable positions. But that is the rest of my deck. I appreciate you guys watching me, you know, kind of go through the list, what I think about each card, kind of what I be using with every card and stuff like that. I went to my local today and I went 4-1, and I actually ended up losing to a film kid, right? But I won where it mattered most, and that was at the online regional for Coretcg that I actually ended up taking. Huge shout out to everyone that has been congratulating me and supporting our channel, following us on Twitter, all that stuff. We're going to be continuing to post and be active in the community. So we appreciate you guys. But let's go ahead and get into some, you know, some light tips and tricks. It's not going to be a full on, you know, video on every single matchup breakdown. Maybe that can come in the future. It's just going to be some tips and tricks. But let's go ahead and get right into it. I'm going to kind of give you guys the matchup spread. I'll probably do this all in the editing. So, I mean, it's going to be somewhere on the screen. I'll probably move this side and then put stuff up right here. All right, so for our first matchup, we versed the Whitebeard. And I'm kind of just going to go through what I think really works in Whitebeard, show off a couple cards, and then I'm just going to go down the list. I think I had two duplicate rounds. I got 3 Whitebeards and 2 Laws, so I'll go over that once. Let's go ahead and start off with Whitebeard. So let me go ahead and grab a couple cards out of here. So some amazing cards that you guys could use to help win this matchup. This is an amazing card. This is an amazing card. I think that's about it. Obviously, we're going to go through what makes this matchup easier for me. First card, obviously, 10 cost Doffy. The Whitebeard needs to swing into you to win. If you have this and he doesn't have a big board and you do a good job of controlling it, this, when he's trying to go for lethal, is lethal for you because he can't swing lethal at you. And so that gives you, you know, turns to basically catch up to him, pressure him, whatever, right? It just stalls you an extra turn and then he can never end. If you chain 2 of these, good luck to the Whitebeard. You're not really winning. For Whitebeard, you want to go second. Hands down, always want to go second. That way you can play this on curve, bins, a 4-6 vanilla. I know a lot of people run the Brooks. I'm personally not a fan of them. If you are, you know, you can make it work. But I like running bins, especially for the Whitebeard matchup. This on curve, you got to play your vanilla before they get to play a vanilla. It's just amazing. You get a free swing at life every turn. The one card that I did use to help me was I run a 1-of Union Armada. And so my turn 6, I'll do something like I'll play a Shiki, right, on curve for 6, can't be KO'd on the next turn. So Ace is useless against this because it can't get KO'd, right, on your next turn. And so then I'll play the Shiki, I'll swing 6 at the Whitebeard lead, make him give me a card or take life, and then on my next turn, I'll Union Armada the Bins. He can't KO it. Now for your next turn, you have a 6k swing and a 7k swing. The Whitebeard has to give you so much cards in his hand, and by the time endgame comes, you know, he's already low on hands if he's going to go ahead and try to protect the units that you're swinging at. Or he's going to be low on life if he's taking, you know, these swings and stuff like that. So I think these 2 cards are amazing. I do only run 1 of Shiki. I saw it in 2 matches out of my 3 on Whitebeard. But that's what 1-ofs are for. If you're going to see them, you're going to see them. And it is what it is, right? You can't, you know, blame the other players like, oh, you should have played better. Like, I'm running 1-of, you know, and I happen to see it. But that's exactly why you run 1-ofs. A while back there was a Zoro list with like 8 1-ofs or something crazy like that, and it topped at 1. And so, like, you know, don't feel bad putting 1-ofs in. If you feel like a card is useful, just run it. So that's for the Whitebeard matchup. Go second. Try to see a Bins on curve. Try to see a Shiki on curve. If you're gonna play a Luffy, play it with the Bins. Not much else unless you need some defense. Obviously, the Uta is the right play. Yeah, not much else. This card is amazing. If people like to swing 7s, this is perfect curve, or like perfect Dawn management. You pay 2, you negate their 7 swing and give minus 3,000 to another one. I don't know why people don't run this. I run 2 of, you mandatory need at least 1 of these in your deck. Yeah, late game, you know, just try to control board with 10 cost Doffy, and then just find your lethal points, and do what you have to do. Next up for round 2, so Whitebeard, I had round 1, round 3, and round 7. Round 2, I ended up versing the mirror match, so we got Gurple Doffy versus Gurple Doffy. And so personally, I've done a bit of testing, not as much as I would like, but for this matchup in particular, you want to go first. You kind of want to go first and pressure your opponent, and just obviously try the best you can to play around Punk Gibson, Spiderweb, stuff like that. Like, you're gonna have to deal with it both ways. But if you get that Luffy on curve, you know, going first, it's amazing. That pressure that you can put, and then if you're dropping a Luffy after that, or if you're, you know, applying more pressure, obviously you don't get the 10 drop first, but as long as you're playing around that, or if you have your own to counter his, you know, you're in good waters. And so against the Gurple Doffy, I did end up going first. And then sugars are also big in the matchup, because if you're trying to set up a 10 cost Doffy turn, play sugar the turn before. With like you can play sugar with like a Luffy, or sugar with a queen, because you'll be at 9 Dawn going first. So, you know, you have options, but, you know, play this sets up. Gurple Doffy does not have any removal, so it is going to hit a target. And then on top of that, you kind of just want to play aggressive and just, you know, do what you have to do in Gurple Doffy, is just pay attention to the events, stuff like that. So round 3 was a Whitebeard. Round 4 was a Zoro. For the Zoro matchup, it went kind of smooth for me, because I did see a lot of Luffy 7 cost, and so you kind of want to rely on that. Obviously, you don't always have the combos, but it is kind of difficult to see them all the time. But that's why you want to have Namis. Namis are amazing in that matchup. You know, you want to flood the board with Namis. If he Fire Fist early on the Namis, that's perfect bait. If you get your on play effects twice, like when I played the Zoro turn 1 or turn 2, I went Nami. I searched because I went second. I searched. Turn 3, I went Nami swing, search, and then I played, I swung 5 with lead, and then I played another Nami search. So I already got 3 searches off. The first Nami search on play, the second Nami search attack, and then the third Nami search on play. So I'm already plus 3 cards by just these 2 Namis. And if you Fire Fist these 2 Namis, guess what my next turn is going to be? Oh, Luffy into Uta, Luffy into Bins, you Luffy into something, and now you don't have your Otama, you don't have your Gordon, whatever you use to Fire Fist both of the, right? So it's a perfect bait. It's a perfect bait going into Zoro. Personally, I don't, and it's like a double edged knife for the Zoro, because if they leave the Namis and you keep searching, that spells even worse trouble for them. But if they do, that still works out for you, because now they're not going to have it for when you drop your Luffys, right? Yeah, just try to mitigate the rush on Zoro. Play your Punk Gibsons. Try to get an early Uta out there. Don't let them, you know, take over the match. Keep the board as, you know, low as possible for him, get your sugars and stuff like that. But yeah, Zoro is definitely winnable matchup. If they see the nuts, it's really hard. It's like Law, right? So if Law has, because the only thing with using sugars is you never want to play it preemptively, because any red deck will just Marco it, and so you kind of want to do it on turns where you know it's gonna make a good impact. So that's Zoro. Round 5, I went against a Law. Also round 8. So against the Law, this is what I like to do. I like to chopper turn 1. Like this is a perfect hand, perfect scenario kind of deal. Not always. I think my first game I did have a chopper on curve, right? I went second, but he visted it, which is like that's fine, you know. But then my next turn, my swinging turn, I went sugar, KO'd whatever he had placed. I think it was a Sanji, so it was brutal for him. And then he played another unit, but now the sugar gets to rest another unit. So I'm getting two early bodies from one sugar, which is amazing in the Law matchup. Don't worry about swinging into the Law. You want to starve him. You want to starve him until you're better adept into the situation to be able to go for lethal. So if you go back to some of my games, I'll probably release footage on especially this matchup in particular. I kind of, didn't swing at him. I had leader open and he had, units, no blockers, perfect swing position, and he was still at 4 life. But I was like, I'm not going to swing at him because all he needs is 1 card. He gets that 1 Bonnie, that 1 Nami, that 1 Dodon, and it's a domino effect of searches, and now you're shambling and going crazy on me, right? So definitely starved the Law. That was round 5 and round 8. Round 6 was Katakuri. I've done a good deal of practice on this because my brother plays it, and so I know how to play it going first or going second. You want to tend to go second, but I ended up going first because I lost dice roll, which is fine because Nami saw this on curve. I saw another one to play right away. You want to flood the board, play your low drops, your 3s, your 4 bins. You want to play all of these. The turn after that, go here, right? There's certain turns where you want to play aggro because you want the Katakuri to take life aggressively. So sometimes you got to swing 7, swing 5-5. Play a small unit. Swing 7, swing 7, swing 7. Don't play a unit, right? If you can get your opponent in these, because you're super defensive. So if you leave your Namis, unable to protect themselves, you have events. Use your counter cards, defend them aggressively. The Katakuri will pay. And that's basically how the matchup went. I'll probably eventually do an edit of all the matches, and so you guys can see them. I don't know if I'm going to react to them individually or just do one whole overview. That is yet to be decided, but I did record every single one of my matches, and a good chunk of them were on stream after like round 4 or 5. They just kept coming in and seeing me on the DOFFY. So that was Katakuri. Round 7 was a Whitebeard. Round 8 was another Law, and then round 9 was a Film Kid. This one was very interesting. I've had 0 matches against Film Kid, but I checked the listing. I saw that I was going to go up against a Film Kid. Okay, I finished my round 9 or my round 8 pretty quickly, and so I told my brother, who's in the other room, hop on the computer, get on sim, make this deck, play me. What I found out was 2 crucial things right away. Late game, this card will block 1 character, always on leader. If the kid can double swing, always on leader. That's minus 3,000. That's 3 Dawn on top of the 3 he has to use to rest. And so that way he can only swing 9 twice instead of swinging 13K twice. Right? So Judgment of Hell, amazing. The other thing was I treated it kind of like Gerpel Dofy. You want to go first and you want to play aggressive and make sure you're, just playing efficiently. Go board when you need to go board, go lethal when you need to go lethal, right? So I think this deck is really good at turning on the jets when it needs to. And if I know for a fact I can set up a lethal turn, I'm going to set up the lethal turn as best I can and provide as much resources as I can on the defensive end. So you cannot kill me, you cannot clear my board, and you're dying next turn. That's basically what my game plan was, and it worked out, honestly. I think I made 1 misplay in the entire day, which was in the finals. I blocked with a Luffy, I believe, or a Queen, and I 2K'd, leaving myself with 2 cards in hand when I should have just blocked and let it die. but that's fine. It worked out. Besides that one mistake, I feel like I played pretty decent. I would have to go over the matches and see if I actually did make any other misplays, but I was playing amazing today. And yeah, you guys are seeing this Sunday, so that today is Sunday. That was the Film Kid matchup. Go first. Treat it like Doflamingo. I like to think of it as like this is the defensive film deck, and then Kid obviously is the very offensive Film Kid. And then 10 cost on the leader saves you a turn. Amazing. But that is the majority of the matches that I versed. Yeah, I only versed Whitebeard, Green Purple Doffy, Zoro, Law, Katakuri, Film Kid. So 6 different matches. The bracket was definitely on my side because I did not verse a single blue deck. This deck does falter a little too blue. Not saying it's unwinnable. There's definitely tech cards and things you can do to win in blue matchups. But they are more difficult. So I'm happy to say that I won and I didn't have to verse a blue deck. But I will be more prepared for blue in the future because I know, people seeing me win this, they're like, oh, maybe I'm going to run blue. Maybe I'm going to run blue. But at the end of the day, red is still on top. Red is still, Law or Whitebeard, Law, Zoro is still right there. All tier 1 decks. And as long as all those are all tier 1 still, blue is definitely going to falter because, some of those matchups are hard for blue decks. But regardless, it was my day today. I won. I hope you guys enjoyed the insight. I'll probably have the graphics here and stuff like that. I hope you guys enjoyed the insight, but subscribe to our channel, like this video. I will have down in the link in the description down below my full interview and deck list with Eggman. I'll link that in the description. But yeah, and I'll have my Twitter linked in the description. Go follow our Awaken TCG Twitter. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate everybody that congratulated me, everybody that's followed me on Awaken TCG, all the new subs. We're at 1,000. Guys, we're at 1,000 subs. We're at 1,000. You know what that means? Giveaway time. Giveaway video coming real soon, probably sometime this next week. I'm going to, get the fine print on all the details on how we're going to run it still. But as soon as that is over, we're going to drop the video so you guys can start signing up. And then it will also have the full pricing list or giveaway list of what we're going to give away. So stay tuned for that, guys. Who knows? Maybe I'll wait for some of this pricing and give some extra stuff away. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Ernesto, Wraith Talks with Awaken TCG out. I love you guys. I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.